KWT slaying.
Salama family, Salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. So, interesting times we're in. Back and forth, chess move, pawn move, queen move. Question is, when is the checkmate? It's interesting. That's all I can say. Prophecy keep coming to pass, and see y'all in the land, in the wilderness. I think relatively soon. We'll see. We'll see. It's possible things could be put on hold. I don't know how possible that is, but I mean, everything, like I said before, everything seems to be lining up. So, I know some people are new to Tell Ministries, and so they're not familiar with some things, but long time ago, now this says 2017, but it really was 2016 from what I remember. Could have been 2017. Sometimes their dates be a little off. But let's say 2017 based upon that. We did follow the Gentile powers, right? Wasn't much happening in the world other than the normal back and forth governmental moves, counter moves. But now there's a lot going on. So, remember, a lot of people keeps telling us there's no 400-year prophecy. I hear that over and over, even with all this stuff going on. They still don't believe it, but they don't understand the 400-year prophecy. That's the difference. So I want to read some scriptures to you before we talk about current events. Now, one thing I can say is that the United States and the Western nations are very good at chess, very good at moves, counter moves, subterfuge. Look at the right hand when the left hand doing something else. But if you look at their agenda, you can figure a lot of it out. A lot of our people don't like to stay up on world events because all things remain the same since the father fell asleep. That's how most people think. But let's go ahead and let's read Isaiah 13, and we're going to read parts of Isaiah 14. A prophecy against Babylon that Isaiah, son of Amos, saw. Raise a banner on a bare hilltop, shout to them, beckon to them. To enter the gates of the nobles, I have commanded those I prepared for battle. I have summoned my warriors to carry out my wrath, those who rejoice in my triumph. Listen, y'all, listen. Do you hear that? Listen, it's a noise. Noise on the mountains like that of a great multitude. Listen, an uproar among the kingdoms like nations massing together. The Lord Almighty is mustering an army for war. They come from faraway lands, from the ends of heavens, the Lord and the weapons of his wrath, to destroy the whole country. Well, for the day of the Lord is near, it will come like destruction from the Almighty. Because of this, all hands will go limp. Can we say nukes? Because of this, all hands will go limp. Every heart will melt with fear. Y'all gonna say, oh, we're about to get nuked. Terror will seize them. Pain and anguish will grip them. They will writhe like a woman in labor. They will look aghast at each other, their faces aflame. See, the day of the Lord is coming. A cruel day with wrath and fierce anger to make the land desolate and what? And destroy the sinners within. Are you sinning? Are you disobeying his commands? Do you have faith that don't have any works? Are you not doing what the scriptures tell you to do? Because guess what? If you say you have faith, I will show you my faith by my works. Why? Because faith without works is what? Dead. What does that mean? That means your faith is not active. If there's no works, if you're not obeying his commands, if you're not doing what he told you to do, your faith is inactive. The stars of heaven and their constellation will not show their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. I will punish the world for its evil, the wicked for their sins. I will put an end to the arrogance of the haughty and will humble the pride of the ruthless. That's all you people out there who got all your money and think you all rich and successful and don't care about nothing and nobody and don't need nobody. All of those who think because they got wealth and power that ain't nothing gonna come near them. Verse 12, I will make people scarier than pure gold. How does that happen? More rare than gold of Ophir. How does that happen? Can we say nukes? Man gonna become more rare than fine gold. If those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. Therefore, I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will shake from its place at the wrath of the Lord Almighty in the day of his burning anger, like a hunted gazelle, like sheep without a shepherd. They will all return to their own people. They will flee to their native lands. That's coming soon. Whoever is captured will be thrust through. All who are caught will fall by the sword. Their infants will be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be looted and their wives violated. Same thing that happened to Israel happening to the Gentiles. See, I will stir up against them the Medes, that's the Iranians, who do not care for silver and have no delight in gold. Their bows will strike down the young men. They will have no mercy on infants, nor will they look with compassion on children. Understand this, that when Russia took over Donetsk and all the other republics, Russia has said it is now Russian territory. If you touch them now, it's like touching Russian territory. Verse 19, Babylon, the jewel of kingdoms, the pride and glory of the Babylonians, will be overthrown by Yah. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, she will never be inhabited or lived in through all generations. There no nomads will pitch their tents. There no shepherds will rest their flocks. But desert creatures will lie there. Jackals will fill her houses. There the owls will dwell, and there the wild goats will leap about. Hyenas will inhabit the stronghold, jackals her luxurious palaces. Her time is at hand, and her days will not be prolonged. Y'all remember seeing Planet of the Apes? Y'all remember how Planet of the Apes looked? Desolate. Nobody there. Now, you know, Planet of the Apes was sort of a jab at the Israelites, right? Y'all know that, right? Only ones were left were the apes. One or two Gentiles made it through in Planet of the Apes, but the whole world was desolate. Why? From a nuke. Can we say somebody knows something or knew something they know was coming? I'm like, come on now, huh? I'm just saying. Isaiah 14. The Lord will have compassion on Jacob. Can I say Israel? Can I say the Negro? The Lord will have compassion on Jacob. Once again, he will choose Israel and will settle them in their own land. So what do we know from this? Israel's not in their land. He's going to choose Israel once again. He's going to settle them back in their land, and foreigners will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob. So some Gentiles are coming back with us. I know somebody going to say that's the northern tribe, but I digress. So foreigners will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob. Nations will take them and bring them to their own place. And Israel will take possession of the nations. What? Israel going to take possession of the nations? Israel going to become a superpower. Israel will take possession of the nations and make them male and female servants in the Lord's land. Where? In the Lord's land. They will make captives of their captors and rule over their oppressors. So apparently the nations made them captives. But Israel going to rule over their oppressors. See, a lot of people get upset because Israel says that Gentiles are going into captivity. I'm sorry. It's right there. It's right there. I'm just reading the scriptures. It ain't me. It ain't me. But, you all need to be careful, because if y'all with us, y'all going to be safe. Y'all going to be safer with us than being in the Gentile nations. I'm just saying. On the day of the Lord gives you relief from your suffering and turmoil and from the harsh labor forced on you. What? Harsh labor? Can we say slavery? You will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon, how the oppressor has come to an end. Can we say America? How his fury has ended. The Lord has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers, which in anger struck down peoples and unceasing blows, and in fury subdued nations with relentless aggression. Who that sound like to you? What nation do you know did all of that? Can we say America? All the lands are at rest and at peace. They break into singing. Even the junipers and the cedars of Lebanon gloat over you and say, now that you have been laid low, no one comes to cut us down anymore. So now that you have been laid low, you ain't coming to invade Africa no more. You're not coming in to invade Afghanistan anymore. You're not coming in to invade Russia anymore. You're not coming in to invade anybody anymore. Verse 9, the realm of the dead below is astir to meet you at your coming. It rouses the spirits of the departed to greet you, all those who were leaders in the world. What? All those who were leaders in the world. World leaders, can you hear this? All those who were leaders in the world. It makes them rise from their thrones, all those who were kings over the nations. They will all respond. They will say to you, you also have become weak as we are, talking about Satan in this instance. You become like us. All your pomp has been brought down to the grave, along with the noise of your harps. Maggots are spread out beneath you, and worms cover you. There's a dual imagery here of Babylon and Satan. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of Yah. I will sit enthroned on the mount of the assembly, on the utmost heights of the mount of Zephon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High, but you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Now, isn't this what Babylon does? Is this not what America does? Want to rule over the nations, control every nation, control all the resources of the planet. So now you know who rules America. Satan does. All right, so I'm going to skip down here to verse 21. Prepare a place to slaughter his children for the sins of their ancestors. Like I say, I didn't write the Bible. Let the offspring of the wicked never be mentioned again. Prepare a place to the slaughter his children for what? The sins of their ancestors. They are not to rise to inherit the land and cover the earth with their cities. I didn't write this. I will rise up against them, declares Yah. I will wipe out Babylon's name and survivors, her offspring and descendants, declares Yah. Now, if you don't agree that America is Babylon, then that's fine. You're cool. If you don't agree that part of that is probably France and all the other Western nations, then you're cool. Okay. If you're not part of Babylon, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you are, you got to worry about the sins of your ancestors. I didn't write this. Been telling y'all to repent for what? How many years now? So I'm going to stop right here. You can read the rest of those scriptures yourself. I'm going to put the link out there. And if y'all want to come in, you can. And we're going to talk about some stuff. All right. There's the link if you want to join. All right. So I'm going to read this to you. And we're going to continue on. Hal Turner. World agreements signed. 4 new states have officially joined Russia. Today, in the Grand Hall of St. George inside Kremlin in Moscow, the former Ukraine territories of Luhansk, Donetsk, don't tell. Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporozhye officially joined the Russian Federation. The document signing ceremony was the highlight of a major speech given by Russian President Vladimir Putin on the state of the world affairs and Russia's special military operation inside Nazi Ukraine. Just ahead of the ceremony declaring the official annexation of the 4 occupied Ukrainian regions, which held controversial referendums, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday signed 2 decrees which recognized the independence of Kherson and Zaporozhye. Oh, what a name. Regions. Recognized the state sovereignty and independence of the Kherson and Zap regions effective from the day of signing. The 2 decrees stated. This paved the way for Friday's ceremony, where he's expected to give a major speech, which will incorporate those 2 territories plus Donetsk and Luhansk. Representatives of the 4 former Ukrainian Oblast states signed the accession documents, then stood with President Putin on stage for rousing applause by the assembled dignitaries as the Russian national anthem was played. In his speech, President Putin described the actions and activities of the collective West, saying they have used colonialism, the fiat US dollar, and brute force to exploit, financially pillage, and bring war to much of the world. Russia, he said, is not going to sit back and accept that anymore. Of the citizens, the 4 states joining Russia, he said, people have made their choice. This is the will of the millions of people. This is their inalienable right, which is enshrined in the UN Charter. Putin announced a minute of silence in memory of the heroes of the Russian Spring, Donbass Wars. In 1991, I'm going to bring y'all on in a sec. In 1991, representatives of the party elites, without asking the people, destroyed the USSR. There is no Soviet Union. It cannot be returned. Russia does not need the revival of the USSR. We are not striving for this. People living in Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zap become our citizens forever. Putin urged Kiev to immediately stop hostilities and return to the table of negotiations. We will protect our lands with all forces and means available to us and will do everything to ensure the safety of people. This is the great liberation mission of our people. We will rebuild all the destroyed cities and towns. We will develop enterprises, infrastructure, healthcare systems. The West does not need Russia at all. It is us who need Russia. Russia will always be Russia. We will defend it. The West always says that it stands for order and rules. But where are these rules? Solid double or even triple standards designed for fools. Russia will not live by such rules. The West wants to see us as a colony, a crowd of soulless slaves. For them, our philosophy is a direct threat, and that is why they encroach on our philosophers. Russophobia is racism. The United States is the only country in the world to have used nuclear weapons twice. Putin accused the Anglo-Saxons, look at that, Anglo-Saxons, we talked about that, remember that. Putin accused the Anglo-Saxons of sabotage of Nord Stream. Sanctions are not enough for the Anglo-Saxons. They have switched to sabotage. In fact, they have proceeded to destroy the pan-European infrastructure, which is true. Do we really want to have parent 1, 2, 3 instead of mom and dad in Russia? This is completely crazy. Is it not? For us, this is unacceptable. The world has entered a period of revolutionary transformations. They are fundamental in nature, Putin said. The collapse of Western hegemony that has begun is can we say the fall of the Gentile powers? The collapse of the Western hegemony that has begun is what? Irreversible. It is not going to be the way it was. Listen to that. It is not going to be the way it was. Today we are fighting so that it would never occur to anyone that our people, language, and culture could be erased from history. Our values are humanity, mercy, and compassion. Now we need the consolidation of the entire society, which is based on sovereignty, creation, and justice. Putin ended his speech by saying, "We stand for truth. We stand for Russia." Putin called on authorities in Ukraine to cease the military activities against the 4 new Russian territories, which Kiev began in 2014. He also made clear Russia will use all its might to defend itself and its 4 new territories from those trying to destroy it or break up. All right. What's up? What's up? Oh, we got Doug on here. What's up, Doug?
How you doing? How you doing? Can you hear me? Okay.
Sound far away.
Oh, damn. All right. I'll stop that. Don't worry about it.
All right. All right. What's up, panel? What's y'all thoughts on this? What do you all think we at? Are we at the steps of the fall of the Gentile powers? I think we're here. I don't think it could go anywhere but further down. Miracles can happen, but I don't see repentance in the nations. So since I don't see repentance in the nations, that this whole thing gonna fall. Let me get your opinion, and we're gonna work our way down. Brother Karras.
Hey, shalom, everybody. I'm trying to keep it together. I'm going through some things. What's changing is weather done hurt me. So, so bear with me, because as we had a storm coming through on Wednesday, Thursday, we didn't know that the actual storm was targeting the pipeline. Now they said 4 leaks, 4 locations, and so what that really does, and shout out to Sister Shauna Shade, and I think Sister Charita. They had a video. The Germans are in trouble, and the Germans are in trouble because they don't have any gas. And so what was going on, there was actually negotiations going on with Olaf Scholz. He's the German prime minister, and they were trying to have a way that they could kind of still have the German oil or LNG, and be able to still have a direct conflict or indirect conflict with them, with NATO forces in Ukraine. And so now that whole option got taken off the table. When it got taken off the table, that was supposed to be the lifeline. And so if Russia had, number one, created it, the pipeline was going to give them the lifeline, and then that lifeline got destroyed. I don't think people understand this. This is like when you have our pipelines. If you've lived in Houston, or if you've lived in New Orleans, or even here in Florida, if when I was listening to Governor DeSantis here in Florida, he was saying, look, the ports are still going to be open for oil, and that was the main thing, right? Just their ports were not open, they were shut, and now since they're shut, they don't have any other recourse. And really, if they try to bring anything from America, then what is that going to do here in America, especially around election time? Oh, it's going to be awful. But our winter is going to look pretty bad on the tail end, because those projections and things of that nature, especially after the elections, I would say probably about January, February, it'll start to hit us because of how the contracts go with oil. However, for the EU or those European nations, it's dire. It's very dire, and so it's funny because as soon as that happened, all these other dominoes are falling. With and I'm sure you're going to present it, so I'm not going to spoil it that much. But you're starting to see number one, Russia backing up its territories, now states, however they want to call it, but now it's their actual territory. It's legitimate, and the legitimacy came through with the vote. That's just how that goes. So, that's what I have.
All right, Minister Tayu.
Salama family, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I mean, this is a big surprise to me. I mean, I've been working all day, so I'm just hearing this at the last minute. But I mean, Zelensky's moving like a novice, right? And he's trying to get NATO to side with him and making these little false moves to say, "Hey, we're signing signing a paper to expedite our membership in the NATO." Like he's trying to trigger Russia when politically the United States know they can't accept him even if they want to. But he's trying to bring them into this thing to bring about World War III. And it's going to happen. I mean, the annexation is not the desire of the cabal, or what we could call NATO today. So this is about to get set off. I mean, that's guaranteed. I mean, the annexation of these territories, they're not going to let it stand. So that's what I have to say so far.
All right, Oral.
Good day, family. How's everybody? Hope everybody's well. What I find interesting is that they're actually keep trying to make it seem like Russia's losing. Like it was a report about Russia losing some tanks and how Russia lost some area in the fight. And I find that as a distraction tactic because they're trying to take everybody's mind off the fact that they are losing the fight, but they make it seem like Russia is like getting their butts kicked when it's not. Actuality, that's not what's going on. So I see a lot of things are falling into place, and we just have to just watch and see because this, as you mentioned, is all prophesied. That's all I have to say.
All right, Double Ice.
All right, can you hear me now?
You sound good. You sound good.
All right, fantastic. So, how you doing, everybody? And thank you for even considering. I didn't even know I could do this. But here's the thing, man. Putin sat across from Biden when he was vice president of Obama, looked him in the face and said, you look at us and you see that we look the same, but we're not the same. And we don't think the same. And the pivot point, I think, in what's happening is the choice the bear is making as to whether it's going to side with right-wing white nationalism or side with its closer origins, which I believe is more Asian in flavor. I mean, they have a closer association with China, and the principles and values that Russians have, I don't think they align with American values. And this has been brewing for a while. Like your last guy said, they're not hurting for certain. They're not against the wall in this thing. And he's come off with over 40 million acres or some shit. So the guy is 40,000 square miles, some crazy number. So this is all calculated, orchestrated, and put in play. I don't think there's any stopping the inevitable, which is, I think, a nuclear strike either here or somewhere in Russia. That's what I got. Thanks.
I agree, Brother Mania.
Hello. First of all, let me say it's an honor to be on this panel with you guys. I've been wanting to get on this panel for several months, but every time you guys come on, I'm at work. So it's an honor to be on today. But what I will say is this. I'm just going to share something with you real quick. So when 2019 came, 2020 came, when the whole COVID thing came on the scene, I started a business. So I took it upon myself to start a business. But I was sharing with my coworkers, I just kept hearing in my spirit, it's too late. It's too late. And I kept trying to figure out what the Most High was trying to tell me. Is it too late for the business? What is it too late for? And I just kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. And I'm still hearing it, even to this day. And I come to realize that What he was trying to tell me is this nation, because I listen to you a lot and you say we're almost out of here. We're almost out of here. We are truly almost out of here.
Yep.
And so, you know, it was like the Most High was saying, it's a twofold message. I know you want to start a business, but it's about time for you to go. It's about time for you to leave. And I've been in like this perpetual sorrow that I've been in since I've been hearing that. And my neighbor, she's a Christian. So I've been trying to tell her who true Israel is and try to waken her up from believing that the people in Israel today are the people, but she won't hear it. She just won't hear it. So I'm not surprised that everything that I'm seeing happening on the news with Russia now annexing all the other parts of the Ukraine. But we got to understand something. The Western media have been saying that the Ukraine is winning. They're winning against Russia, but they really aren't, because when you look at Russia, Russia has only been toying with the Ukraine. They've only been probably using 13% of their military might against the Ukraine. They haven't gone into Kyiv and used all of their might to get Kyiv. They just been toying with it. But now they've called up 300,000 service members. And from what the news reports that I'm hearing, a lot of the people that are in Russia, especially the men, are trying to get out because they understand that they're going to be called up to go in and they're going to finish this job. So Russia's getting ready to use the full force of its military now. They've already said that we're going to use nukes. Because look, if you think that Russia went into the Ukraine and they're going to say, okay, let's do peace talks. Let's have peace talks now. Hey, we're going to pull back our troops. You got another thing coming. He's not going to do that. And when the West gets involved in this war to try to prevent Russia from taking over the Ukraine, they're going to use nukes. And when they use nukes on the Ukraine, they're coming for us too, because they understand that the United States is using the Ukraine as its proxy army and has been using the Ukraine as its proxy army all this year. They just gave the Ukraine $13 billion more money here recently. So they understand that the United States may not have troops on the ground, American troops on the ground, but they have the Ukrainian troops on the ground. And
they
so
do
Russia
have troops on the ground. They have special ops on the ground.
They have special ops, but they haven't really called up the whole force of the United States military to go in. And so they got special ops on the ground. And so Russia's like, they understand now that, the United States, we're at war with not just the Ukraine, but the United States. And now they're at war with NATO because those 4 other Ukrainian provinces just signed on to be, I don't know if they did it by force, but they just signed on to be part of Russia. So that's all I'm saying. So I'm just saying that all the stuff that you've been saying, I've been watching your videos for years. All this stuff is getting ready to come to pass. We are almost out of here, and we are going to see the Exodus in our lifetime.
Yep, I agree. All right, Brother Keith.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's so interesting watching everything that's going down. It's very interesting. First of all, like listening to the news reports from mainstream media and like reading their reports, they make it seem like, the Russians are on the run and the Ukrainians are gaining ground. No, they aren't. The Russians are doing exactly what they intend to do. They're not losing. If you look at the more recent events, when like recently they've been saying, okay, well, the Ukrainians are gaining ground, the Russians are retreating. They only went back to the place they intended to take. Now they've annexed 4 regions, and they had to push the Ukrainians out and beyond a certain line, if you will. Then they pulled back to where they intended to be, and now they have more territory. And it's just so interesting watching the Western media like tell the story. Their narrative is that so anytime a single tank is blown up, they'll celebrate it. It's almost like they're advertising, and then it's like a television show starring President Zelensky with his green shirt on, and they make it seem like they're winning, but they're not. What just happened today? It expedites everything, and if anyone has been watching Putin and how he operates, he did something similar, well, a couple times, but when he first became president in 2000, when he attacked the people of Georgia, he doesn't mess around. This guy doesn't mess around. And now that he's annexed those 4 regions, just as he said, those regions are now a part of Russia. And if you attack within those 4 regions, it's just as if you are attacking, Moscow or the motherland. So now,
Yeah, we can't hear Brother Keith. You went silent. The last part. All right, Brother Don P. How's it going?
It is going well. I'm working right now too, but the beauty is when you work for yourself.
That's a blessing.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, go
we
ahead,
hear you.
brother.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know at what point I got disconnected.
Yeah, it was like at the tail end, whatever the last few.
Yeah, maybe like the last 30 seconds of what
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So now that he's able to approach this as a war on terror, any country that's fighting a war on terror not only will go after the leaders of the terrorist organizations that are attacking them, but they also go after the supporters of those terrorist organizations. That's what we did with Osama bin Laden. He was the leader, if you will, of at least a faction of the terrorist organization, but he was in a country, and he wasn't even the leader of the country. But we attacked Afghanistan because he was there. Now, of course, if anyone has been watching that closely, there are some reports that Afghanistan offered to, basically turn Osama bin Laden over to the United States, and they denied the request, so on and so forth. And he was in Pakistan. But nevertheless, we attacked an entire country because of one person. That's what Putin is about to do with people like Zelensky and all these countries that are giving the Ukrainians, now he's going to label them as terrorist weapons. Eventually, he's going to go after them too. So this is a big deal. And I think you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about basically the European powers fraying, the Gentile powers coming to an end. This is as close as we've ever been. People talk about the Cold War, and of course, we had like the Cuban Missile Crisis, but it's been nothing like this. You see what's happening in Britain right now. They're about to experience a financial collapse. And there's a lot going on in different economies. Germany is talking about spending $200 billion to prop up their economy, and so people won't have to pay more for their electric bills. That's going to break, and they also said that they are going to borrow the money in order to be able to pay for it. That's going to break them. They're going to go broke trying to sustain their societies. That's on top of all of this other stuff. So it's about to get very real. And Putin said this week that he's not bluffing about using nuclear weapons. I think there are quite a few things going on that we are not privy to at this point, but maybe it'll come out in the future. But who knows what the West is doing in Ukraine exactly? We know that they have forces there, special forces. We know that they're supporting the Ukrainians, giving them a bunch of money, a bunch of weapons. By the way, the West is also depleting our stockpile. Well, I'll say their stockpile. They're depleting their stockpile of weapons. And Putin knows this. He said it earlier this week when he was talking to the leaders of the manufacturers of the military weaponry. He said that the West has depleted their stockpile. He knows this. Honestly, the entire West at this point, and by the way, another thought about that, a lot of these weapons that we've been giving to Ukraine, we can't make them in 6 months or even a year. For some of the weapons, it'll take 3+ years to manufacture. So it's not as if we can just ramp up production like we did during World War II and fight this war and defeat the enemy. The weapons nowadays are way more advanced. We have a globalized economy. The parts are made in different countries around the world. They won't be able to ramp, and these tanks cost like $6+ million. They won't be able to ramp up production like they did before to fight this war. The game has changed. And now, this week, even Biden or the White House is talking more recklessly about using nuclear weapons. So they're starting, everybody's puffing their chests out, and it just got real. So what happened today is, I would say it's really beyond the beginning stages of the Gentile powers coming to an end, but it's more tangible now. There's something we can touch, we can point to and say, yeah, this is it right here. But honestly, now we're at a point now where people can't be playing around at this point. They need to make sure their relationship with the Most High is tight. They need to, make sure they are, prayerfully seeking the Most High, listening to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and following what the Most High tells them to do. Some people will be able to leave Babylon. Some people won't be able to. But for those who are left behind, as the scripture says, they're going to cry and say, "Which way to Zion?" The people who are left behind are about to go through some hell in order to make it out of Babylon to get back into the land. Okay, I've talked a long time. Sorry about that. I just wanted to say those things, but thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. And as Brother Keith said, y'all better know the Most High. You better have a relationship with Yeshua, and y'all better. I'm talking to some of you Gentiles. Y'all better get it right, because y'all in some trouble. Brother Don P. He got dropped. All right, we'll get Brother Don P on the back end when he come back. I'm gonna share.
Did we miss Oral? I don't think Oral spoke, or did I miss
Oral
that?
spoke. He spoke.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna share this.
Yes,
video.
I did. Thank you, but yes, I did.
Okay, let's see. Hold on, Brother Don P. back. Let's see, Brother Don.
Yes, sir. I hit the wrong button. I was like,
Okay.
dang, I did it like twice. The stupid machine, I forgot this machine was on, and so it's making cold water, and I'm trying to clean the tank out. So I'm like, oh man, and the paper towel starts sticking. Anyway, that's sort of the situation the United States is in with Russia. Just everything going wrong. Everything's going wrong. But I saw something the other day that was really important to this. It had to do with the UN. I'm trying to remember what it was. I lost my chain of thought. But yeah, we are definitely in a place where it is time to get everything in order. If you leave, in the time frame that the Most High gives you, because that's the most important thing. It's His timing, not ours. So, and just making the preparations, because it's going to happen, and we're getting closer. And I really don't think either one of these people have a problem using nukes.
I agree.
Because Russia's looking at it like this. Hey, the United States have dropped bombs on its own people. So, and other countries. So we ain't going to get them the first strikers move. We're not going to do it. We're going to hit them and the Ukraine at the same time. And we've already plotted out the United States. Our subs have already been there 3 times at least in the last 24 months. Off the coast, East Coast twice, and off the West Coast once. And they didn't even know they were there until they physically saw them. So, and my whole thing is that's where they're going to hit first, is they're going to hit the East Coast and the West Coast, because they have to destroy the financial centers and the other economic centers and technology and so forth. So they're going to hit the East Coast and the West Coast. They don't really they'll come to the Midwest, and because also the East Coast, DMV, the DMV area. But the Midwest, they don't really care much about. They hit them later because, that's the heartland where food was supposed to be growing, which is not really growing because the government made them stop growing food for us. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna let me back and just chill and listen.
May I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so look, I'm a registered nurse. I work around a whole lot of white people, and they don't get it. So when I try to talk to them and tell them what's coming, they can't graft it in. They say stuff like, "Oh, nobody can attack the United States. Oh, that'll never happen. Our military is too powerful. Nobody would dare attack the United States. So we good. That's happening on the other side of the world, but that would never happen over here." And so they seem to think that the United States has some kind of invisible force field around it that makes it impervious to attack. And so when this attack does come, they're going to be caught by surprise. People are going to be laying in the bed at night, and all of a sudden, it's going to the earth is going to shake around them, and they're going to come outside and try to figure out what the hell is going on, because they don't think that they can be attacked. Because United States technically has never been attacked by a foreign power on its soil other than Hawaii, Pearl Harbor. So look, it is so hard to try to get them to understand that the time is short. You better get your house in order spiritually with the Most High now. They don't get it. They just don't get it. And so, and the westernized media, they feed into that. They feed into this superiority of the United States. That's why they keep feeding us these news stories about the Ukraine is winning against Russia. They're gaining ground against Russia. And so they keep feeding us that, and they keep seasoning that arrogance that people in the United States have about nobody being able to attack America. So I just wanted to say that.
All right, Brother Damon.
Shalom, shalom. On Benaya's point, I hear a lot of people saying the same exact thing. But we've been a superpower. We, as the United States of America, been a superpower for so long and untouchable for so long. But all of the superpowers before that thought the same way. Babylon thought they couldn't get touched. Persia thought they couldn't be touched, right? Greece thought they was untouchable. Rome thought they was untouchable. And this new revised Roman Empire think that they're untouchable as well. One. Two, they think they're in right standards with the Most High. So I think I think that is the main thing. Are we in right standards with the Most High? And then if it gets tough, we just gonna get raptured out. So it's a skewed view of where they at. And so they're like, we're untouchable because we're in right standards with the Most High, and we have never been beaten before. And we got Canada above us, Mexico below us, and nobody can touch us. But I think they know. If just look at some of the reporters' body language. Oh, everything is fine. Everything is fine. No, they know. They know that they know the time is running down. They're like, oh man, but they won't tell us, right? It's not going to be no breaking news because the person that's in the newscaster is going to be gone. They're going to try to go to their underground base or whatever they got going on. There's going to be no breaking news. It's just going to catch everybody by surprise. So, like brother said, we got to get our house in order and stick to the Most High.
Let me ask you a quick question, Brother Damon. Do you think that America has been betrayed?
Betrayed by other
own. I personally think that America's been set up for the okie doke, and like all of those missiles and stuff they're sending over there to Ukraine, giving away their own missiles and destroying the food supply. And I'm like,
it is unreal. It is unreal, right? I mean, it's to their own demise. You know what I mean? Like America's been handed over to a reprobate mindset.
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing. I cannot believe that that's happening. I don't think that Russia will use nukes and at the Ukraine because it's too close to their back door, but I think they won't have no problem shooting them over here.
Here's the thing: if I'm going to attack you, I'm not going to attack the low man. I'm going to hit the big boys, right? I mean, if you know you're going to get hit by by the U.S. or you're going to hit Ukraine, and you know you're going to get hit by the U.S., I'm just saying. You have something you want to say, Brother Doug?
Yeah, I did. Hopefully you can hear me. Listen, a while back I read somewhere that China is using quantum computing to determine their foreign policy. Now that's, might be shocking to put that in the hands of AI, but if you couple that with Putin's deliberate calculation in courting the GOP back just before Trump was elected, kind of getting all the goods on these guys, buying them off. And he has, I believe, initiated a long-term op on the United States. Some things have gone wrong, but in joining China in kind of, helping him along in some kind of support, they have already mapped out what they're going to do to corral and control well over 300 million people. And I think it's very important we understand the sightings we've seen off the coast of Alaska, off the coast of the West Coast, East Coast. They're subs, they're listening devices. I think they're primed and ready to take control of this country before a civil war jumps off within it. They can't allow a civil war to jump off and then try to control these crazed beings. That's all I got.
Too many guns here. That's why they can't do that.
Yeah. Antonio.
Hey, family. Thank you for having me on this panel. It's a blessing to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We hear you.
Okay.
Sound good.
Okay, yeah. Just to follow up what a lot of the brothers are saying already is that America is indeed set up for the okie doke. As Brother Doug just spoke a minute ago, he said that China was spotted off the coast of Russia. We have deals with Venezuela and China, Cuba and Russia. Everywhere you go around about America, China and Russia are building up their allies. They're making deals, partnerships, trading. They're doing all kinds. In the Caribbean, China is heavy in the Caribbean. The net is closing in on America. Her allies or people who were once allies, yes, you're right, Mister. She is being betrayed. She has been betrayed. It's just that the average American citizen hasn't waken up to that fact yet. They haven't realized that the other nations around about us are turning their backs on America and siding with America's enemies. And so they don't see it as a threat, but it is, because your enemies are now positioning themselves strategically when they're ready to make their move, to just make the move. And there's nothing America can do. Even if America has an ally, it won't make it there in time to really defend, to stop an oncoming invasion. And the brother Doug was also correct. I think that they will make a move before a civil war, because America will already be in full arm mode, ready to go to war to fight itself. But then to turn those weapons on an invading enemy, So I think the enemies of America are already set up. They're playing chess while America is playing, tic-tac-toe, and they're ready to take this country down. And yes, the food has been stopped growing in the Middle East. In the Midwest. We stopped making fossil fuels, and it's just bad. The economy is tanking. America has been set up to fall and to take the people of Yah with it when it falls. That's the enemy's plan. But we know our God has a greater plan. He's going to get us up out of here long before all this stuff happens. Most of us anyway. But we're going to get up out of here. So the enemy can plot and plan all he wants to try to bring down this country with Yah's people inside, but it's not going to happen. He's going to find a way to get us up out of here before it goes down. And that's really it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is that a civil war really is in favor for an invading force, right? Because it makes them concerned and worried about suppressing all of the discord that's going on in the country. So it'll make it easier for them to come in. That's just my thought. So let me share this video here.
Here, I wanted to get this emergency video out. Last night on last night's show, we talked about within 24 hours, everything was going to change, and it looks like it has. And so there are a couple of big pieces of news breaking this afternoon that I wanted to bring to you and try to provide some context for them. First, on the Russian side, of course, last night, as we reported, President Putin of Russia was going to be meeting with the leaders of the 4 regions of the Donbass to officially sign joining the Russian Federation. That happened this afternoon, and President Putin then delivered remarks saying now would be a time for Ukraine to stop attacking. If they continue to attack, we will use the full weight of the Russian armed forces to retaliate. So he's calling on Kiev right now to stop any aggression in the Donbass region. Take a listen.
And the key authorities, they should see this expression of will with respect. And that's the only way we can reach a peaceful solution. We will protect our lands with every means we have at our disposal. And we will do everything to provide safety for our people. This is the great liberating mission of our people.
So, of course, all 4 leaders were there. They then, at the end of the speech, got together on stage, put their hands together, shook, and they all started chanting, Russia, Russia, Russia. Watch.
Did you know that you can make a full-time income from YouTube without ever trying to grow your own channel?
So that's on the Russian side. There were other couple of really interesting moments during this speech from President Putin, specifically blaming the West for the attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines, saying that they were absolutely responsible for it. Also saying he is now open to talks, open to peace talks. Now that these 4 regions are under Russian control, now would be a good time probably to stop this war. Very interesting on the Ukrainian side. And this is the main reason for doing this video this afternoon, is because moments ago, Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, held a signing ceremony, a sudden and unexpected signing ceremony.
Ми робимо свій визначальний крок, підписуючи заявку України на вступ у пришвидшеному порядку в НАТО.
That is a stunning moment. That is absolutely what President Putin said would not be allowed to happen. NATO advancement right on the doorstep of Russia. This is a moment that is begging for nuclear war. This is a moment begging for World War III. I think we are watching this unfold right before our eyes, guys, and it's absolutely terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. This is one of those moments when you want to hug your children, want to hug your family closer, because it doesn't look like cooler heads are going to prevail. These 4 regions are now under Russian control, and you can say what you want all about the 8 years of bombing of these regions. You can say what you want about the Russian decision to actually invade, to secure these regions. All of that is moot at this point. All of that is moot. These 4 regions are now under Russian control, and the only thing to do right now is to demand peace. Put up.
Are you talking, Jacoba? You're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Minister Taylor. So it says here, Ukraine's NATO bid should be taken up at a different time, White House says. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Ukraine's request for rapid ascension into NATO should occur at a later date. Sullivan told reporters on Friday that the request, which Ukrainian President Zelensky announced hours earlier, should be taken up at a different time because our view is that the best way for us to support Ukraine is through practical on-the-ground support in Ukraine. So based upon what Redacted was saying, yes, that was a concern, but according to that recent article, NATO not going to let them become a part of their organization right now. I don't know if that means anything, if that's going to change any situation or not. And also, here's a article from War News. Risk of a third world war, Zelensky, Ukraine submit requests for quick ascension to NATO. So that's what they were talking about in Redacted. And so now it look like NATO saying, okay, we're going to put that on hold, which is good because, I think we'd have nukes dropping tomorrow. All right. Share another article. All right, the last row of the West, fast track Ukraine's NATO membership, Plan B with the mission of a NATO Peace Corps. Now, it might be interesting that if the United Nations or NATO forces come into Ukraine, I wonder if Russia's going to have an issue with that. I mean, because then you have NATO there, right? Whether it be UN or not, I don't know. Today's developments with Ukraine's request to join NATO are a justification for Putin and Russia. Zelensky, in his speech, confirmed what the Russians were saying until now. Ukraine is a member of the Atlantic Alliance. Well, we just saw the article that says that's not the case. The developments are expected to be dramatic for humanity. Ukraine's request to join NATO with fast-track procedures cannot be ruled out without first having a secret consultation with the U.S., Britain, Poland, and other countries. Therefore, nothing should be excluded. In fact, it is very likely that we will now see a normal entry of regular NATO forces into Ukraine, since Zelensky said Ukraine is a de facto member of NATO. So Zelensky was saying that, right? But we saw the article where the U.S. saying, nah, we're going to hold that off. So I don't know what's going to happen on that front, right? So before we continue on, let me get the panels to give their input on this. So what do you all think of this whole situation? Zelensky trying to force himself into NATO. NATO saying, okay, now we're going to hold that off a little bit. What are the next steps? What do you all see?
Well, I think it's funny that you had Zelensky. It's like, hey, get me into the gang. He was trying to be a Crip or a Blood or whatever you want to call it, and they said, no, homie, now's not the right time. But I want to get jumped in now. Jump me in. So, that goes to show you, they don't want to have a fight in terms of a fight being conventional, right? They don't want the conventional fight. That's not how that's not the appetite for the U.S., especially at this time. And the reason that Russia knows that is because they know that the U.S. is going through war fatigue. Not even we're just breaking a year with Afghanistan, and so the issue and the concern is, if the support that's going on into Ukraine, well, technically, by all accounts, anybody can label terrorism as whatever they want to label it. Do you understand? Because the definition was so flimsy because of how it was emotionalized here in the West. Now, what Putin is doing is that he's saying, okay, you want to go by quote unquote terrorism. Well, guess what? This is a terrorist organization. Oh, you wanted to say Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq had terrorists or was led by terrorist leadership? Well, he can make the same argument. Well, the same can be said with the population group that's been there in that land for 400 years, being terrorized. Oh, and by the way, China has plenty of TikTok videos that can definitely back up this point. So now that puts everything in a different perspective, because if you understand the way that things were phrased and the phraseology, right, is that the those that are actually backing the war, and let me tell you, when you're spending billions of dollars, at every given shot, you're not winning anything if you're just spending billions and billions of dollars. Matter of fact, you that shows that when your resources are being spent like that, your resources are actually being depleted. And therefore, that means that you really don't have a great operational environment in that area of operations. And so when you are just trying to shoot at everything and not have anything that provides those positive effects of controlling that area, you're just going to shoot. Hey, I ran out of ammo. Hurry up, give me some more ammo, and you're just spraying into the air. That's losing. That's definitely losing. However, when Putin had said, look, they're tolerating the U.S. allowing for the weapons to go in. They know that the weapons are going in there. Matter of fact, they know that the Western advisors are in there. They're folks giving them targets and things of that nature. Because even the foreign affairs, Lavrov, I think, had said, look, we understand that, but see, now it's on Russia in terms of when they want to hit and how hard they want to hit back. And when they hit back, it's going to look like Cobra Kai or Karate Kid, the Netflix version, right? They're going to strike hard, they're going to strike fast, right? And they're going to be no mercy. And I don't think a lot of people understand what that's going to do, because once a hypersonic missile carrying a nuclear capable warhead or a warhead, then guess what that's going to do? You only have to have one. You don't have to have three. You only have to have one. And what that will do, that will polarize the nation like that. Well, you're a Democrat. You wanted this stuff. I'm a Republican. The East-West divide would be like, and then therefore, what would you have? You'll have the South, and then you'll have the North, and therefore you'll have, here we go, Cuba, right? That's already a launching point. We already saw that they're doing drills and things of that nature with the Venezuelans. We saw that was going on, remember, back in August, all these exercises, right? And now all of a sudden, here come these exercises 3 or 2-3 months later, and now things are moving in this capacity. This is all calculated.
Let me ask you something right quick, Brother Kara. So, in one of the articles I read from Hal Turner, he mentioned that Putin said the era, basically, I'm paraphrasing, the era of the West is over. Basically, there's a new sheriff in town, a new financial order system. It's never going back to what it was. Now, to me, in order to get there, there's going to have to be a fight. What do you think?
There is going to be a fight, but I don't think the fight's going to be what they think. And I always contend this. I've always said this. They're going to have UN peacekeeping operations here because you already have a very highly polarized United States, whether people believe it or not. All they need to do is just have an outside actor, and that actor is really Russia and China. But then the other nations, look, it doesn't bode very well, right? When you done blew up a pipeline that was going to give you gas. So those other nations, especially those European nations, will say, well, peacekeeping. Because why? Because they're going to try and come up on in here and do what? And steal that gas. All right, you want to blow up my pipeline? Guess what? I'm going to take all your stuff from out of your ports and call it peacekeeping.
So what do you think Germany's saying right now? The U.S. just blew up the gas lines, and they're going to be freezing this winter. So I'm like, you think they are friends now?
No, I bet you as soon as that happened, that the prime minister called or had a courier sent to someone in Russia right away, because you have to understand that was literally a lifeline that not only Germany did but also Russia did. It was a joint venture. So when those reporters were asking, well, how are you going to do this when that's controlled by Germany? And then Biden was saying, oh, we can do it. Well, what does that mean? They literally stomped on Europe and said, you belong to us. You don't say that. You don't do that to. Let me just phrase this in the words of our man Doug Rice. And getting that smile off your face, right? In the words of this white Caucasity, right? White people don't want to be victimized by other white people. And especially Europeans don't get victimized by other folks of European descent. They will go to war on you in a second. It don't matter what type of ancient village you done came from. It don't matter what type of last name you don't have. They're going to fight you over being able to freeze or not. That's the whole argument right there.
Yeah, I mean, no fruit, no food, and no heat. It's gonna be a real tough winter. Let me read this article right quick and get some more comments after this. It will suffocate Ukraine. General mobilization in Russia. Formation of territorial defense units. A. Dugin, Putin has declared war on the West. Now, understand, Dugin is the father of the girl that they killed, Dugina, right? And he's supposedly a philosopher and supposed to be, one of the right-hand mans of Putin. I don't know if all that's true or not, but interesting to say the least. All of Russia is on the verge of war. According to information, the Russian army is setting up KAI territorial defense units in various regions of the country, which are made up of B and C class reservists. The fact that Russia is following Ukraine's example is not only positive. The territorial defense units, in addition to protecting critical facilities in the rear, can be immediately transferred to the front after being equipped and receiving basic training. For some time now, there have been discussions in Russia about the creation of such an autonomous corps, which would operate especially in the border regions. The bottom line is that there is general mobilization of Russian society. Information indicates that in practice, there is no partial mobilization of the 300,000 reservists, but a general one which will be carried out in various waves. The first wave will be 1 to 1.2 million reservists in an attempt to launch a blitzkrieg against Ukraine and suffocate it by striking from all directions. Will Putin stay on this alone, or is he preparing for other fronts as well? Of key importance are the statements of Dugin that were made immediately after Putin's speech. Alexander Dugin hailed Putin's speech today as a declaration of war against the modern West and the modern world in general. Putin's words are much more important than the unity with the four new political subjects of Ukraine. It is a fundamental declaration of war against the modern West and the modern world in general. This is the manifesto of tradition. I cannot imagine the depth of the implications of this. As in the Old Testament, David threw a sling at the giant Goliath, so it is today. It was an eschatological religious discourse. Signs have already gone up on Moscow's Ring Road. We will defend our territories with all the forces and means available and do everything to ensure people's safety. This is the great liberating mission of our people. Now, I find this really interesting, but
Нихера себе везут, ребята, везут. Везут подмогу, блядь. Смотри, блядь, подмога какая. Ебануться нахуй, а? Все с консервацией, все набьем, блядь. И она бесконечная. Слушай, сколько тут их, а? Слава русскому оружию, блядь. Дима, снимай нахуй. Ёкарный бабай, вот это красавцы, а? Видно, что не новое, блядь, с расконсервацией, но, блин. Да уж, красиво, блин.
Putin them saying, do you hear me now? At the same time, Putin signed a presidential decree by which 120,000 Russians are called to arms for training. These are citizens of the Russian Federation between the ages of 18 and 27 who are not in the reserve and are subject to conscription in accordance with Russian law. At the same time, the regional governor of St. Petersburg initially stated that only in St. Petersburg, 80,000 reserves have been called up. He later corrected his statement, which caused a lot of backlash, because if only in St. Petersburg there are 80,000, then in all of Russia there must be 1.5 million. More than 8,000 citizens in St. Petersburg received summons as part of the mobilization campaign, said the deputy military commissar of the city of St. Petersburg, Colonel whatever, apologizing for the initial mistake. He also emphasized that at the moment, only citizens who have category A and B on their military ID are invited. So all of this is happening. It doesn't look like it's de-escalating. Russian President Vladimir Putin today assured that Russia will achieve victory in its war against Ukraine during a grand rally in the central Moscow Red Square to celebrate the annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Putin, addressing a crowd of people, emphasized that today is a historic day, a day of truth and justice. Today we can talk about a day of truth and justice, added the Russian president in front of packed Red Square. Welcome to your home, he told the residents of the areas whose annexation he had announced earlier, saying they return to their historic homeland. Crowd chants Russia, Russia, Russia in Moscow's Red Square.
И команде на счет 3. Раз, два, три! Ура! Ура! Ура!
May I say something, Brother Yakoba?
Yeah.
You know, you asked a question earlier about what our thoughts were on the Ukrainian president trying to ask to get into NATO. I find that interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, the other companies like CNN and MSNBC and all these other companies, they like to show how the war is going towards Ukraine's favor. But that right there, him trying so desperately to try to get into NATO is something telling. It's really it's telling how desperate they are and how bad it is for them and how things are going. So if anyone have eyes to see, they can see that. Because why is he so desperately trying to get into NATO all of a sudden now? That's all I had to say.
Well, I like to add to that. I mean, I think it's just a tactical maneuver by the Ukraine president. By getting NATO involved, it will force a provocation between the United States and Russia, take the burden off of Ukraine and his people, and use the resources of the United States against Russia. That's what he was hoping to do.
But don't you think that shows a little desperation also?
Oh, definitely it is. It is because right now, even though he's getting help, it's not enough. So he's desperate to get assistance.
Right.
And also, if I might add, when you look at the articles of what's required to join NATO, a country cannot join NATO if they are in a current conflict. So really, I mean, Ukraine never really had a realistic chance to actually join NATO, as long as they were in a military conflict of any sort. And all the NATO members knew this. However, when you look at how they talked about it before, they knew that the Ukrainians couldn't join, but they were open to the idea. They presented their position as, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and speed up the process of joining NATO? So they were basically just toying with Ukraine. They knew they would not be able to join. However, when you look at the video that was played, I'm surprised that they made such a big U-turn. Maybe it probably won't get a lot of attention, but for him to come out and say, actually, no, no, this is not a good time. That's a total 180. I think that they know they stepped in it. They're like, whoa, okay, you know what? We didn't expect for it to unfold exactly like this fast. So yeah, maybe we should walk this back a little bit.
So moderators, if you have people come in here talking about the sealed portions, please put them in timeout. They know, they ought to know. If they don't know, we don't deal with that foolishness over here. I mean, it's obvious that Daniel was talking about the book of Revelation that was being unsealed. Come on now. Stop it. Please stop it. All right.
Well,
so
that sealed portions promote homosexuality too. So
maybe
they out here
they
trying to. That's what I'm saying. Are they here to promote that? You might as well leave now.
They probably for it. That's why they all rallying around that foolishness. I mean, please don't come in with that foolishness. All right, let me share another article. Armageddon. Putin gave the green light for the use of nuclear weapons. The Anglo-Saxons blew up the pipelines. The USA created a Hiroshima-Nagasaki trial. Now, remember, I talked about the Anglo-Saxons, who they are, and all of that stuff, right? So really, the power going to shift to the Gog and Magog's faction, the 10 toes and stuff. So, but anyway, the speech of the president of Russia, Putin, brings dramatic global developments. 3 points in his speech herald the use of nuclear weapons. Putin emphasized that. The United States created doom by using nuclear weapons against Japan at the end of World War II, warned that it will use all means to protect the 4 new areas, i.e. activation of strategic nuclear weapons, and revealed that the Anglo-Saxons blew up the Nord Stream pipelines, confirming war news revelations in the previous article. This is a terrorist act against Russian assets. This means that the military leadership has received the green light from Putin for the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Declaration of Putin, they are our citizens and I will protect them by all means. I want the Kiev authorities and their real bosses in the West to listen to me. People in Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zap become our citizens forever, said Russian President. Russia will never betray the people of the 4 regions, Putin continued. We will defend our land with all the forces and means at our disposal. We will do everything to ensure the safe life of our people. This is the great liberating mission of our people, added the Russian president. Now, one thing I want to add is that just based upon what I think in terms of the prophecies, especially 2 Ezra 15, that this is just my theory, that it's going to kick off over there in what we call the Middle East area, or in the Central Asian area where Armenia and Azerbaijan is, and Turkey and Iran. And I think what's going to happen is that NATO is going to use that to stir up that area to make Russia concentrate forces and to distract them on that side of their country as well, right? And so then once they do that, that's when all hell gonna break loose out there in what we call the Middle East, right? And they all gonna start fighting. Russia gonna come to their aid, China gonna come to their aid, and then that's when, according to 2 Ezra, they're gonna head back to America, aka Babylon. So what do you all think about this? What Putin says, those territories are his. They are now Russian citizens. If you attack Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zap, you are pretty much attacking Russia itself, and the gloves are off. And do you all think Zelensky's going to listen? I don't think he's going to listen. I think Zelensky's going to continue the attacks. But what's your thoughts?
I believe Zelensky definitely will not listen. Well, you played the video of him signing, the paper to join NATO. No, he's not going to listen. He's not going to listen. The West is not going to listen. They are arrogant and they are set in their ways. And most of the West, as a reminder to those who think about these types of things, most of the West are colonizers. So. Yep. As much as people want to, try to get away from that part of human history at this point, because they did it all over the world, they have a colonizer's mindset. So they will remain unrepentant. They will not want to appear, what they consider to be weak. Now, in some civilizations, it'll be considered to be wise to try and actually listen to people and actually negotiate and actually, pursue peace. That's considered like wisdom in a lot of cultures. But for them, no, it's not wisdom. They don't want to look weak, and they will not look weak at all costs. Earlier, someone mentioned that, they were talking to some of their, Gentile friends or coworkers, and they can't see it. They won't be able to see it. And I think for the most part, those who can see it have already seen it, or at least a good portion of it. And those who will see it have already seen it. So if they haven't seen it, if they can't understand it or see it at this point, I don't think they will. Or if they do, it'll be too late for, I think, most people. But and you also asked the question about the West turning against America. that scripture, and you've covered that on multiple videos, it'll happen. And once again, we're seeing something tangible. It's not very detailed. Prophecy usually isn't very detailed, but we have some details now. We can fill in some of those blanks. We know that more than likely, Russia did not blow up the pipelines because that wouldn't be in their best interest to do it, and that those pipelines were a form of leverage for them. So who's going to take the blame for that? And by the way, those waters were territories that were in the control of, NATO forces or the West. So, it wouldn't have been easy for Russia to do it anyway. But so that type of thing happened. And I think you covered on some of your past videos about like the plan for the West to try and weaken Europe. That type of thing will come to light. And by the way, there's been a rise of nationalism in a lot of these countries. So basically, patriotism. And when people are hurting, they're not going to care about what's happening elsewhere. They're not going to care about Ukraine or any theories about what should happen. They're just going to be concerned about their own interests. And you will see more of a rise of nationalism when people start thinking about their own interests. Just like when Trump said America first, they're going to start saying Italy first or Germany first, which is kind of already what's happening. They had an election in Italy this week, and the lady who is now their leader, she had like an Italy first message, and she was pretty flippant.
Yeah, that was a good message. She was dogging out Macron in the French.
yeah, right. Like she was going in. I was like, wow. And she called them colonizers.
Yeah.
She said they need to leave Africa. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing that happens when nationalism, and people just get fed up. But see, when that type of thing happens, that's when they'll say, okay, you know what? America is leading this, and they're causing all this trouble. And they're going to be hurting. And like I said before, Germany's going to borrow $200 billion. They're going to say, you know what? We don't need America anymore.
Exactly. You got it. Minister, tell you, before I block this dude, did you want to comment on this?
I mean, we'll find the verses and we'll bring them up. So unless you want to share the verse, we've already seen the verses on that.
I'm not worrying about these folks, dude. I'm done with them.
They know it's in their book. It's in there. So,
all right. So this dude, look, family. I'm blogging this dude. Y'all see him? Put him on time. I mean, block him, whatever. I'm blocking him. All right, you block Scorpion. All right. So, what do you all think? Well, let me share this. Because I got a whole bunch of stuff really about Ukraine. Ukrainians are sure that Russia will strike with tactical nukes. Everybody expecting a tactical nuke. I wonder why, right? Because everyone knows that if NATO gets involved, right, Russia has no options but to use nukes because NATO has more physical troops than them, right? Since they're not the former Soviet Union anymore. So, but here's the thing that I find interesting during all this time. This is really cool right here, right? What's going on in Africa?
GFI Global Africa. I'm your host, Atul Mishra. Let's begin. Mozambique and Tanzania have recently signed many agreements in the fields of security, resources, and infrastructure development. The high point of these agreements is the one on cooperation with respect to exploration and extraction of hydrocarbons. Tanzania Communications Regulatory Authority also committed to scaling up communication cooperation with its Mozambican counterpart through the Communications Regulators Association of Southern Africa. These recent agreements have numerous game-changing geopolitical implications. Truth be told, the rising importance of Mozambique in the global scale cannot be denied. Mozambique has been among the fastest growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa over the last 20 years, with average annual real GDP growth of 7.4%. Various indicators of human development progress, such as GDP per capita, poverty headcount, and life expectancy, have significantly improved. The strong performance was aided by the determined implementation of credible macroeconomic policies and structural reforms. a favorable external environment, donor support, and in recent years, the discovery and exploitation of natural resources. Similarly, over the past decade, despite rapid population growth, Tanzania has achieved relatively strong economic growth and declining poverty rates. The country remains a lower middle income country despite the global pandemic-induced contraction of GDP per capita in 2020. Much of the country's development success over the decade was predicated on its strategic maritime location, rich and diverse natural resources, and socio-political stability, as well as its rapidly growing tourism. Recently, both Tanzania and Mozambique started exploring the benefits of the numerous natural resources, including oil and gas, that endow their lands. This caught the eyes of the Western nations, who have been starved of their oil and gas reserves ever since the Russo-Ukraine war erupted. For years, major oil and gas field development and pipeline construction projects in Africa have been hampered by Western banks and governments' reticence to fund new hydrocarbon projects as the battle against carbon emissions has gained momentum. With a loud smash, the tables have been turned. After promising to ban new oil and gas investments overseas at the COP26 in November, the G7 has suddenly changed its tune. And Europe, the same Europe that has advised African countries to focus on renewable energy and leave oil and gas in the ground, is now demanding gas. The most recent visit in an attempt to secure gas supplies was from the Portuguese Prime Minister, Antonio Costa. The Prime Minister announced a 40% increase in funds allocated to projects under the Strategic Cooperation Program with Mozambique in a rather failed attempt to woo the African country. For long, Western nations have pillaged Africa and tried to increase their own coffers. But now Africa has started to understand the importance of self-sufficiency in the wake of the global protectionism brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, the crisis spurred on by Europe's overwhelming reliance on Russian energy sources has only served to motivate African nations to start weaning themselves off of Western nations. The authorities of both Tanzania and Mozambique have understood the reality that only a pan-African unity can fuel the growth of the continent. Recently, the president of Mozambique, Philip Nyusi, said the two countries were currently focused on exploiting hydrocarbons, which form the building blocks of vital energy sources like coal and gas. Tanzania's geographical positioning makes it easy to transport the natural gas to other countries, especially Asian ones, which are looking for new sources of energy. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan, also present, welcomed the preliminary agreement. We have reached a good stage of discussions about the LNG project, but much work is still waiting for us to talk and make it competitive, the president added. Africa's hydrocarbons sector could see quick uptake in development if these governments endeavor wisely and position themselves as attractive alternatives for oil and gas. Another factor counting in Africa's favor is the fact that domestic demand for hydrocarbons in countries like Tanzania and Mozambique is likely to remain strong, well after many advanced economies have transitioned to renewable sources of energy, which supports the long-term investment case. One important fact to note here is that while Mozambique has 100 trillion cubic feet of proven gas reserves, which could potentially place the country in the top tier of LNG producers in the world, most of the gas is located off the shores of the northern Cabo Delgado province, where insurgent groups operate. For a long time, Western governments assumed that in order for Mozambique to harness these riches, it would have to clear out terrorist groups, which would inadvertently necessitate Western assistance. However, the West's developed nations have underestimated Africa's rising resilience. Make no doubt about it, Mozambique recognized the threat to its sovereignty and natural resources posed by allowing Western countries to fight terrorism on its territory. As a result, it was prudent to seek assistance from fellow African countries. Keeping this reality in mind, Mozambique and Tanzania have also signed 2 cooperation agreements in Maputo, focusing on combating terrorism and fighting crime. The African countries acknowledge the unrest afflicting northern Mozambique could occasionally spill over the border. So any decision to push ahead with the onshore project will also be made regarding the security situation. African political and economic systems have always been in excess to global political and economic systems, lagging behind in global socio-economic and political advancement for ages. Africans have long put up with the discriminatory treatment they receive from Western countries. However, they are now retaliating against the condescending and paternalistic attitude of Western nations.
So here we go. Everything's coming to pass, prophetically speaking. Everything we talked about, right? Russia, China, this whole thing between Babylon, which is the West, and the rise of Africa, aka, the Israelite Empire, right? The two sticks are going to become one. The northern tribes and the southern tribes are going to come together. The Bible says that we're going to be wealthier than King Solomon. We can see all of the gold, the silver, the oil, the everything that's there for us. Now, there are some Gentiles who are trying to move over there, right? And a lot of them are moving into Tanzania. And I was told that the U.S. and the West told Tanzania not to allow us to come back because we're criminals and thieves and all this type of stuff. So they're trying to stop us from going. But all along, just as we say, the fall of the Gentile powers is the rise of the Israelites. What do you all think? We in them prophetic times, and these are going to be our final comments.
Y'all got y'all exit us bag packed, boy. I do. Yeah, I think these are most definitely prophetic times that we're living in. To answer the question you asked earlier about Russia and all that, yeah, America's done. It's done. You were speaking earlier about how a preemptive strike would be bad for Ukraine to try to further pursue becoming a part of the UN. Russia is already set up with China to back them up in case the people start to get dumb and they sign off on Ukraine actually joining the UN. China and Russia are already set up to say, okay, we told you not to do it. And now here comes the whooping, because they're set up in Venezuela. They're set up in, where else? In Venezuela, throughout the Caribbean. China's all over the Caribbean. Russia's already set up in Cuba. I think that's why they had that huge internet and media blackout in Cuba a few months ago, if you recall, over the summer. I think it was because Russia was bringing in some heavy artillery into Cuba, and they didn't want it to get out. They didn't want the volume of what they were doing, all the real moves, to be seen and shown to the world. So they said, kill the internet, kill our outgoing news media. We're bringing in some equipment to set up just in case Ukraine decides to be stupid. And so I think they've been setting themselves up for just in case Ukraine does decide it is capable of joining the UN. They're already set up to lay the smack down on America. But I do also think we're in prophetic times. You can see how you spoke earlier that the European nations are getting tired of America. They're getting tired of this colonial mindset. As one of the brothers spoke earlier about that, the Italian, I can't remember her position, but I watched that video and she spoke with vitriol about France, about Macron, and about how much of a colonizer he was and how they need to get out of Africa. And you're right, all of the European nations are looking to Africa to supply their needs, because they're realizing we don't have what it takes to make it without Africa. We need to continue to rob and steal. And some of the nations have wised up, like the Netherlands, and Italy, a few other nations have said, okay, we need to build in Africa. We'll get our foot in the door by opening up programs, trying to fund this and that, to get a foot in the door to be on good terms with places like Tanzania and Uganda, who have an oil deal with the EU. And there are members of the EU saying, hey, no, this is bad for the environment. But there are other countries that are saying, we need their oil. Shut up. Stop telling them to sell to us, because we want these pipeline projects to continue, because we're going to depend on their oil. So we are most definitely in prophetic times. All of America's allies, former allies, are now turning into enemies. They're indifferent towards America. They have a lot of anti-American regimes being set up in Latin America. And it's the writing's on the wall. I'm just ready to get up out of here. And that's all I got to say.
Any other comments?
Yes, I'd like to comment. You see, Brother Yacoba, it's interesting. a lot of these things are coming to pass. Like, for instance, I believe it was last year. It was Ivory Coast and Nigeria. They got tired of Europe coming in, buying up all their cocoa and making these expensive chocolate. And they said, enough, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow you guys to do that anymore. So they kicked them out of the country. And so they say they're going to produce their own chocolate and pay and actually charge a premium versus them Europe coming to Africa, getting it for pennies on the dollar, and going and selling these expensive chocolate bars. So that's something that I see that's starting to switch as well, where Africa is starting to be the superpower. Now, as far as a lot of things you say, I see it's the writing is on the wall. Another thing I also see is that America is, one of the brothers said earlier, they're war fatigue because they're always fighting in some conflict. I mean, I know one of my nephews, he was in Afghanistan, and about a few months ago, he had to go back. He's back over there again. And so our boys are just pretty much fatigued from all this war. America cannot fight all these different wars on all these different fronts, because now they have ships over in Taiwan and over in that area, and they still are trying to monitor the situation over here in the Ukraine. So eventually, the chickens are going to come home to roost. But this is all things that must come to pass. So all we have to do is make sure we make ourselves right with our Heavenly Father, warn as many people as we possibly can, and just watch out for because our redemption draws nigh. And that's all I have to say.
All right. But Doug.
All right. Well, I've been following you for a minute. You kind of assisted in my transition from sleep to woke. The one thing that I've noticed is that these people have us on their mind.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
They got Negroes living rent-free in their minds. And let me tell you something, man, the spacious view, I talked about this more a little bit, but fact of the matter is, man, is they're frantic to somehow prevent the prophetically inevitable. And we say this, so we talk about it, but they're beginning to understand the truth is unfolding in front of them all. And I don't think that they understand how already done and baked in this is for the most part. I heard you guys talk about they don't believe that they can be put in chains. That's probably the best statement I've heard, the hubris of America, to not believe that they can be enslaved. And that is the trajectory these folks are set for. That's all I had. That's it.
All right. Brother Karras.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me on here, Yakoba and Teyu. This is very interesting, and I'm it's one of those things that we just kind of look and see. Hey, this is what we see coming down the horizon. This is where we look at things, and now you see the actual, what is getting ready to set off the fireworks, right? We're telling people we're getting ready to go to the fireworks show. We're on the road to the fireworks show, and now you're actually looking at the fireworks being ready to get lit because they're putting the fireworks right in front of our faces. And so now we're waiting on when things get lit. And to be quite honest, we don't know when things are going to get lit. We don't know if things are going to get lit tonight.
Yeah, exactly. We're close to something, I tell you.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying? It's like, so I don't know how much they were trying to really like rush this week, but this week was crazy, and I'm here trying to get on a live and talk about it, in the morning, and my throat is all messed up and hurting. I done had like 15 lodges so I can actually talk, and I'm just coughing in the background. But
take some vitamin C.
Yeah, I took like 2 of those.
You gotta take 4.
Yeah, I try to double and triple up. So, but you know, but that's the real situation that we're facing, and nobody's saying, well, you know, that sounds crazy. Have you ever? How many times have we heard that? That sounds crazy. In these last 2-3 months, how many times has somebody come up on here, has even had the gumption in any of the chats, in any of the platforms? That sounds crazy. That doesn't make any sense. And to be quite honest, I haven't seen them, because you want to know why? Because they're now having to deal with that reality. And what they're trying to do is get their potassium iodide before anybody else, right? So they can be able to survive any type of nuclear radiation or fallout or whatever you have it. But to be quite honest, I look at it like this. I believe there's enough technology that where things may get hit, and I look at it from clearly a military intelligence, you know, targeting officer that's seen these things, right? You're going to go for communication channels, right? You don't necessarily have to do things that cause major collateral damage, right? Or civilian casualties. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is just knock out a few communication centers, take down a few of those little or you could do civilian structures, but that doesn't really do much. But they know, because here's the thing: all these spies that they don't have on out there. Did you see the article of the transgender spy? I don't know.
The transgender spy.
Yeah.
That sounds like some kind of anime or something.
I started laughing. I'm like, is this for real?
Man, I had to laugh at that too. Because that article was so confusing. It was like the husband, the wife, the wife, husband, somewhere. You can't make this one up. It was for real. It was for real. I'm like, well, that's why the man, or someone was confused. Something was confused.
Everybody's confused.
But I had to look at the picture. And my bad. I had to laugh, and I'm like, but they're so concerned about us, and it's like it's their own people doing this. It's their own folks.
Yep.
Right. And that's the crazy situation. And all we're doing is saying, look, this is prophecy. That's it. It's prophecy. Nobody has to go on out there and kill like 50 million people. That's what they think is, wins the war. No, it doesn't. All that does for them, that provides major confusion. Because you want to know why? The craziest thing, when you look at this pandemic, who was getting the most anxious and couldn't sit still and couldn't just be in their homes? Who was it? It wasn't a lot of us going on out there and causing havoc. It was them. So imagine if you take on out their source of communication. You know what black folks would do? We would just get a flashlight and read the word.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, well, let me get in this closet, because you want to know why? If this stuff is down, then guess what? I need to get my word. I need to make sure that, I'm in prayer, asking for forgiveness. Father, I'm listening to you. I'm waiting on you. Right? I can't cut on my TV, so you're going to be speaking to me. What do I need to do? Black folks are going to be so adamant about, okay, Father, when's that angel going to knock? Look at what else do I need to pack? I got my medicine for 7 days. Father, what that's what we'll do for them. And this was already tested, and I'm saying this because it was already evaluated, right? They couldn't sit still. They had to go on out. They had to do what they, to do what they need to do to try to maintain some semblance of control. And the bad thing is, if you have something like that, well, guess what they're going to tell you to do first? The authorities will say, stay in your house. Stay in your house and do not come on out. Because if you come on out and you're on the streets, then guess what? we're going to fire at you because we don't know if you're going to be an agitator or whatever. Then guess what that's going to do? They're going to fight each other. That, I don't understand. It's so easy. It really is so easy, but we understand it. All we're doing is saying, hey, we're just going to hang on out here. And then that's where you'll have to have, again, those UN peacekeepers. I'm telling you all this. Look, that's what I feel. That's what I believe. That's why they always had the, like I guess a couple years ago when they had the one. It was a black lady from an African country, and she was in her peacekeeping uniform. Excuse me, her peacekeeping uniform there. I think in like Denver, and someone had. She was a UN peacekeeper, but somebody had recorded her, and they asked her, "It's like, so what are you doing here? What's your mission?" And she's like, "Don't film me." Do you all remember that clip?
I never saw it.
I can't say I recall that.
Okay, yeah. So I know someone will post it. Someone will post it, but they're asking like, "What are you doing here?" And so she didn't say, and she was trying to tell him, look, stop recording me. So that happened back in like, I think 2 years ago. So when people don't even understand, they're already set up here. So if they're set up here, something's about to go down here. It's just taking a minute for the plan to work. But when the plans come and when this thing kicks off, it's not a matter of if, but when this game kicks off, all you have to do, honestly, just hunker down and then just pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give you guidance of when to move and how to move. And that's all I got to say, because I believe we're very, very close in this.
Yeah, and I think Kissinger was the one who said, right now you don't want UN troops here, but one day you're going to be welcoming them. So
Can someone say EMP blast?
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, I think Don P probably the final one who needs to say something. Brother Don.
It's all over. It's all over. We already know. We've been seeing the signs. The question is this: it's either going to have to jump off before November, or it's going to have to wait until after March. I don't know if any of you guys have been in Russia or in the Ukraine in the winter. You are not trying to be outside. So I think it would be in error to think that this is going to happen later as opposed to sooner. Me, I'm betting all on black. I'm betting it all on black. And so I've got a consultation coming up about my move, about buying some real estate, and then about construction and whatever legal documents I need. And I got to go. I'm not trying to, I've been told to go. So I'm not trying to hang out. I'm not trying to wait and see what happens. It's time to go. And
you know, I'm
no, I'm going to Zanzibar.
Oh, Zanzibar, okay.
Yeah, at least that's the plan. And I'm trying to tell my family, because they some good Christians, and my sister said about maybe 6 months ago, well, unless we get raptured. And me and my other sister just kind of looked at her. My other sister, she's a Christian, but she's starting to wake up. I think if anybody's going to wake up, it's going to be her, because she does not believe in the rapture stuff. And I think, I got to talk to her, but I think she's starting to see for herself. And so the thing is, we can only do what the Most High gives us the grace to do. And as Yahusha said, let those who have an ear to hear what says the Ruach HaKodesh. And with that, I'm going to land my plane.
All right, Minister Tayu.
Yeah, so when Brother Doug said, we have taken residence in their mind, one person came to mind real quick, and that's vocab. I mean, it's like, what does the belief and opinions of a Negro people have to do with you? You the dominant race right now. You a first class citizen in Babylon, and you upset because we call ourselves Israel. Man, and he's been harassing Pastor Kelly and Pastor Brown lately. I mean, man, what's wrong with you? But anyway, yeah, I wanted to just finish this up by just sharing pieces of the sealed portion so we can put another nail in that coffin like Brother TCA already did. So let me just share that stuff. Let's see. All right. So y'all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, start with verse 79. And that which I shall reveal unto you shall be a means of much rejoicing unto many of our brothers and sisters in the latter days, yea, even many of the children of God who have lived in fear of repression and persecution for that happiness which they have chosen for themselves. Well, you know what they're talking about. For behold, Barnabas and John, united as one in the flesh, even so much that they loved each other and slept with each other as a man sleepeth with a woman. And Paul knew of this before and had brought the matter before the other apostles of the Lord who had been with the Lord in the flesh. For Paul was not with the Lord in the flesh and did not see those things which were done among them in the flesh. And Barnabas and John were united in the flesh, even in the presence of the Lord, who upon seeing them together said of them, surely these two love each other exceedingly. Oh, that there was a man that could love his wife, even as John loved Barnabas. Truly they shall be together in the kingdom of our Father as one.
What you talking about, Willis?
Wow.
That's your sealed portions right there, bro.
That's their third
Madness.
testament. Wow.
What are you talking about, Willis? That's crazy.
Is that unbelievable? And they're pushing this. They need to put an end to that. They need to stop. Your book is trash.
I have a question. Now, where's this from?
Yeah, that's
Sealed
what
portion.
It's called The Sealed Portions by a guy named Christopher.
The sealed, and someone wrote this. Somebody
It
wrote
was
this
written
as
in 2008.
as an
For some
addendum.
reason,
Guys following this stuff.
what's that? Well, it was written by a guy named Christopher in 2008, and for some reason, some of these camps are using it as a divine end days document for Israel.
No, because it scared me for a second. Because I was like, "Is this somewhere in the Bible that I didn't know anything about?" Because I mean, I'm like, "What the heck is this?" Oh, I'm glad we cleared that up, man. Oh my goodness.
I agree with this statement. Leave it sealed and burn it.
I second that.
Put some holy water on it.
Burn it.
Burn it.
All right, family. I want to thank the panel for coming on, and like I say before, I hope you have your bug out bag ready. I got mine ready. Some I think Brother Doug, you got your bug out bag ready?
Man, my bug out bag has always been right here. It's been here for what, a year. I am already ready to go, but my mind is still on the scripture. I was like distracted. I read it. What scripture? Is there slow phone stuff?
He like, when was that in the Bible?
I read the whole thing. I don't remember getting down like that, but okay.
It got these thous and those in it, right?
I was like, who wrote this? So I got my bug out bag, and I want to tell you, if I can, I've had go bags shortly after I woke, I don't know what prompted me to prepare an edifice to leave. But and lately here, looking at your wonderful broadcast, you know, we're so close. I'm understanding where you're coming from. So packed, that's how I stay. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on, Brother Doug. And
Now,
yes,
before you go,
yeah, go
one
ahead.
second. I just want to say, Brother Tay, thank you so much for sharing that with me, man, because I've heard about the sealed portion, but I appreciate you taking the time to read it, because it's really helped me, because if I didn't know any better, I would be one of the people that are foolish who are thinking that's somewhere in the Bible. So thank you so much for taking the time to read that. That's all I wanted to say.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I don't understand why some of our people are so easily misled. I mean, they're following Mormonism, seal portion, they're following Druidism, they're following all kind of things, but the scriptures, and some of them rejecting Yeshua, so they won't make it in the kingdom unless they trust and believe in Yeshua. Bad times to be an atheist, an unbeliever, a Mormon Israelite, any a Muslim Israelite, any of those ites, other than a born again person who has his name written in the Lamb's Book of Life. So once again, I want to thank you all for coming on panel, and family, pray for the body, pray for you, for all of the house of Israel, you know, and pray that the Most High keep us, and that we make it out alive. Also support the Dry Bones Project. And if you want to support this ministry, you can become a patron, and our Cash App, you can see it scrolling down below. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah.